coconut on Lamington, but Angie couldn't drag her eyes away from Rob Jones. Rob's height was always more pronounced in her little hatchback. His dark hair almost touched the car roof, and his legs were cramped underneath the steering wheel. He'd barely stopped to take a breath since he'd pulled into the driveway, dumped his backpack on the porch, whisked them outside, and pointed the car towards the coast. There's enough land to crop and run cattle. The bones of the place are sound. Owners upgraded the wiring a few years ago, so it's not a death trap like all the other houses we've looked at, said Rob, his animated gaze switching between the road and her. Dead set winner. Angie couldn't help laughing. You've said that about every old place we've seen. Remember last time you were home? That dive in MacArthur? The real estate guy had to catch the front door when it fell off its hinges, and the floorboards in that Renovator's Delight in Allensford had more termites than timber. Angie smoothed the newspaper clipping in her lap. Rob had waved it around like a winning lottery ticket when he'd arrived home. With 4 bedrooms, 2 living areas and acreage, there'd be ample room, but by the look of the photograph, there was a lot of hard yakka required. They've used the phrase fixer-upper twice. That's code for downright awful. Rob took his large hand off the steering wheel to squeeze her knee. Wouldn't stay that way for long with the 2 of us on site. Small country towns blurred into one another as Rob took them down unfamiliar back roads and single-lane tracks. The ocean glimmered in the distance, and after 2 hours driving, they finally arrived in front of the weatherboard cottage. Perfect, or what? Angie felt a surge of excitement as she studied the building. It was even more derelict in the bright spring sunshine than the photograph had suggested, but the ornate latticework and wide veranda offered an air of elegance. Even in its state of disrepair, she could see the cottage had once been someone's pride and joy. She looked back at the advertisement, feeling the need to balance Rob's excitement. She was normally the one who rushed into things, yet Rob looked like he was about to whip out his wallet and lay down a deposit as soon as she gave the nod. Better than the others we've seen, she said cautiously. Probably miles outside our price range, though. Rob tapped his nose as he unbuckled Claudia from the back seat. Motivated seller, apparently. He grabbed Angie's hand, almost dragging her down the driveway. The smell of wisteria and jasmine wafted up from the neglected garden. Overgrown rose tendrils snagged Angie's jeans as she followed the path to the house. The newspaper photograph must have been taken years before, or strategically cropped so that the wild garden beds and piles of rubbish at the side of the yard were out of shot. The lawns had been given free rein, growing knee-high and creeping up onto the path around the cottage. Even so, just as she'd been drawn to the black and white photo in the ad, Angie found herself gravitating towards the old building. "He's the agent now," said Rob. Angie stuck out her hand, but the agent leaned in to kiss her on the cheek before slapping Rob on the back. "Good to see you, Jonesy. And Angie, I've heard so much about you and this little cutie." He tweaked Claudia's nose. "What a great opportunity, hey?" Angie lifted an eyebrow as the man shoved a key into the front door. Friendliest real estate agent she'd ever met. Rob took her hand and they slipped inside. They went from room to room. The high ceilings and generous windows made the cottage feel spacious, and even with furniture, there'd be oodles of room for hide and seek, plus enough floor space for those oversized jigsaw puzzles Claudia loved, and maybe 2 sofas, instead of the 2-seater they'd made do with in Eden Creek. Sunshine streamed in through dirty windows, and dust motes danced. Angie swooned when she saw the ornate ceiling roses in the lounge room, and more in the smaller bedroom, which would be perfect for Claudia. The real estate agent noticed Rob admiring the open fireplace and launched into his sales pitch. Winters snuggled up in front of the wood fire, summers at the beach down the end of the lane. What more could you want? There's even a creek at the back of the property, if you fancy some eel trapping, he said.